session.
Okay, so who's recording?
I've started the recording.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Not on your browser.
Are we ready to go?
Can you
Okay,
see
so
your side, Vivian?
yes, I can see. Thank you. Lovely. Cool. Okay, so as I said to you, I'm talking again about the primitive brain or the lower brain, and the reason why I'm mentioning that is that because the hardwires all basically come. They come from a place of self-preservation and not being okay, and then they cause this wiring to preserve you and to protect you and to get you to cope in life, and it becomes strongholds and bondages inside yourself. And half of these things, like we said, it comes from the parenting, all the DNA, and it comes from the abuse. The absolute abuse, we realize, is the biggest reason that causes all these absolute nasty hardwires, especially when they become tertiary. So today we're looking at the tertiary hardwires, session number 9. It's going to be a short session because we're only dealing with 2 hardwires, and in your case we are dealing with how you become an interpreter. So you don't need to know too much information by now. You just need to understand really when a hardwire becomes tertiary, then a hardwire is actually now getting the better of you. It's now really making you to regress in life. It's making you to go down. It's really then saying, Tata, you're never going to get to your optimum human because you now stuffed up and you are now messed up and you are doing that to yourself. Yes, we don't deliberately do these things to ourselves, but sooner than later, and very soon, very soon, we all get into those tertiary patterns, and then those cause us to have a chronic problem. So you become chronic, like a chronic disease, a chronic person. And that's why when we see anything on the tertiary level, we need to actually be hardcore on the people that we interview. It's only that half an hour that you have, whatever time you have with that human in your life. And what does it help you? You obviously can't be rescued to say, it's okay, it's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's very not okay. So we've got to be hard. We've got to work with truth, and truth will set people free. It will give them hard nightmares, and it will make him to worry about that and maybe dream dreams and start having a bit nightmares. But that's what you actually want, because your job is there to get people conscious of what is busy happening with you, and take note. It's not okay. You think it's just cool. It's not cool. None of those tertiary things are cool. So let's look at the 2 hardwires. First thing I just want to say is, I want to ask you, please, if you can please permit me to skip the session on Thursday, because on Thursday I'm now here in KZN and I'm doing the module 2, and the module 2 is on ecosystems for change as opposed to ecosystems for chance that hardwires you. So we're doing module 2 for 2 days, and it's going to just be too much of a call for both me as well as the people attending that. So a lot of you are attending this workshop, this module. So if it's okay with you, just give me chance for me to get back into Lesotho, because the last workshops are going to be very much practicals. So I'm going to, the first thing you're going to do in your next session is you're going to do a quiz. I'm going to see if you've listened in class. So I'm going to ask you questions, and then you're going to tell me what hardwires I'm talking about. I'm going to give you behavioral patterns, and then you're going to try to tell me what exactly is the hardwire. And then we are going to, for the next sessions, we're going to, I'm going to do real life hardwire sessions that I will pre-record, and then I'm going to play it, and then you're going to give me feedback on what you hear between the lines. Not only what the direct stuff, what you hear between the lines, and how you see the pattern playing out and the connection between hardwires. So we'll do some real life examples, and I still pre-record them. And obviously, when I use something like this, then I'm going to take out the names, and I'm also, if I'm going to ask permission, I've got this this permission forms that if people are okay with that, and to allow me to do this. So we'll tackle a few cases of newcomers, and we'll also tackle a person who's been doing hardwires and now redoing the hardwire to see what is changing and why is it changing. So those type of conversations are so powerful. Okay, so are you okay with skipping the session? So next week on Tuesday we'll have the next one. So the first one is OLM. So this is old-minded, and you, this person looks as if they.
Sorry guys, there's no sound.
Yeah, me too. No sound.
No sound.
No sound.
ngiyakuzeva ndoda nginamathaqamba ukubona nami sengiqala ukujima endlini hayi.
Anyways, so I'm sorry to waste your time and good luck this week. What about adults? We can get together without a kid. Not me. Ever since you admitted me to life, I've been planning a wedding. Look,
Has the show gone off the screen?
Yeah, it looks like it's fine. You might have left. You might have been kicked out.
I also cannot hear anything. Is anybody else experiencing this?
Yeah.
Can't
Me
skip
too.
I can't hear.
as well. I can't hear.
Can't see Vivian.
No sound. Can't see Vivian.
Can't hear or see Vivian.
Same.
I am contacting her. Just give us a minute, please.
I think she's become a rocker mama.
Are we back? Can you all hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. Oh, okay. So sorry. Okay, so there we go. So your old-minded is too much adrenaline. It's got to do with stress. Old-minded, tertiary hardwire is not you are just old-fashioned. You are not old-fashioned as such. Yes, maybe you can become old-fashioned in the process because you will become, not wanting to do things. You won't be playful and youthful and full of vitality. You would have all sorts of excuses. So that is what starts happening because of adrenaline. So the more you had stress from the day you were born, if you were exposed to stress as a little child as well, it's where it starts as a child, where you actually have stress, a stressful parenting home where people are screaming at each other or fighting or the whole fight and flight and carrot and stick type of behavioral patterns. That's where they show the adrenaline gets excreted into your bloodstream slowly but surely, and it's toxins little by little by little by little by little. And the more stresses you have, the more you can have cortisol secretion, and that creates this adrenal. It goes and sits in your adrenal glands. So most of this old-mindedness is all stress and fear and anxiety related. So that is why I'm such a promoter of get out of your primitive brain. Get out of that primitive brain where the lies, the fight and the flight and the fear and the frustrations and the and we always say that the primitive brain has only one word, and that is FOK in every language, So the more you can get out of that state of primitive living and get out of ecosystems that's doing that, the more you will actually work against that adrenaline that is the building up into your body. And so people that have been exposed to a lot of stress, like in the wars and in the armies and in whatever type of scenarios, like for instance, house arrests and those type of stuff like rape and whatever, they develop what we call the PTS, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and that is it really, I mean, sits for the rest of their lives. I just had a person there at Afriski that was coming from special forces. He was in the Recce, and he was involved in Bosnia wars and stuff like that, and he tells stories that you cannot believe, and those humans, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, they are on medication for life, so they have to really do things to help that primitive brain to just relax, because it's overactive, and then it's just all the time secreting the stress hormones, and that causes then this hardwire called old-minded, OLM. Okay, and then and nowadays there's this new thing, I don't know for how long this has been going on, that's called electromagnetic sensitivity. So I've had clients in different places where they are so hypersensitive on their epidermis and in their on their superficial, and also they can't handle sounds enough anymore, and they can't handle, they're oversensitive to radio waves and to cell phone waves, and it's just crazy how this is increasing. You can go and look on the World Health Organization's website to look at how electromagnetic sensitivity is on the increase. But it's also directly related to primitive brain anxieties and stresses, oversensitivity that picks up the signals through your senses and through your feeling, your kinesthetic senses, that actually makes people to be agitated, and they can't actually sleep in the night. So there's a lot of symptoms that go with that. So there's one woman, I've been dealing with her for years now. She cannot sleep. They built a house, beautiful house, and she cannot sleep in the bedroom of that beautiful house. She sleeps only in the child's bedroom. She cannot sleep in any other place in the house now anymore. So it's just one big mess. So it's all part of, and that causes then the fatigue, because you get more and more fatigue, memory loss, and then it causes muscular type of diseases and immunological type of diseases. And fiber, that's muscular type of disease. So fibromyalgia, always showing how fibromyalgia is just on the increase all the time. And it's all coming from a place, and a place, like I'm telling you, the childhood trauma place that causes eventually a person to go into this chronic state when they become adults, and not even adults anymore. But nowadays, it's like youngsters that is suffering from fibromyalgia. They go to the doctor. The doctors don't know what to do with them. They put them on pain medication because they're experiencing pain that they can't describe. So it's like a disease that nobody can really touch. It's not tangible. And then they eventually cause all sorts of synthetic drug addictions, and they think they can't live without that anymore. And when we start taking them through ATB, we release them from all those stuff and all those addictive type of patterns. But it's because of the pain, and if the earlier you can actually find and identify those symptoms, and you'll start seeing the stress in the neck, stress, the body aches and body pains, and then you must know when it comes to old-minded hardwires, you have to pump into that human happy hormones. So how do you get happy hormones? You can do it in a natural way. You don't have to go to the doctor and get a stab, a jab of oxytocin. I mean, oxytocin jab is going to cost you 1,500 rand a jab. So why would you now do that if you can do it in the natural way, the way our bodies are made to do that? So to work against it, that's what I'll always say in these sessions. I'll say, listen, you cannot have old-mindedness. You just cannot. You've got to be a child. You've got to go back and be a child and childlike and full of vitality. And the only way you can do it is to study the happy hormones, to actually see how you can get the happy hormones flowing into your body in a much more active way every single day of your life. So look, if you look at this slide, then you're going to see the type of words they talk. They'll say, I'm stressed, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, I don't have the energy, I can't do it, don't you want to do it for me? Now it's too late for me to do this, it's not meant for me. All these substantiations and excuses and justifications is just crazy how they learn to master those. The behavior is procrastination, size, you'll see the size, shoulders are starting to slump, more closed eyes, negativity coming up, close to any new ideas, shuts down to idea to also have self-development and self-change. They just don't have the energy for it. It's not that they don't conceive the importance, but it is a fatigue syndrome, a fatigue problem. And fatigue obviously causes memory loss. Those things cause Alzheimer's and dementia, definitely. And like I have explained to you, when you've got too much Z-brain dominance, you must know you are task-driven, and the task drives the man, instead of the man driving the task. And we've got to understand how it's not a task. At the end of the day, when you lie at your deathbed and you're sick, are you really going to care about all the tick lists that you made in your life? No, you've got to realize that you have to change your perception about tasks, because you become OCD and you start becoming obsessed, and those things create fatigue syndromes and stuff inside your body. Okay, so what's the regression to further hardwires? Mental matters. Your mental state is just declining all the time. That is the big thing. And your openness to things and to new ideas and is just locking up. You're just locking yourself and your brain then. And then all that's left for you is the addiction, and then obviously the more you are having mental matters, the more medication and stuff you will have to go and pay for, and this causes what we call the low resources, which is the fact that you're starting to run out of money, and that is the problem. So what's the acceptable score for OLM? So I'll usually say 0 to 9. I will say, hey, you must wake up, take note. Your OLM is showing on the score. You do have a certain amount of stressors that is starting to get the better of you. It's starting to make you a chronic person regressing down the slippery slope into nothingness. You better turn this around now. That's what I'll say between 0 and 9. When it comes to 10 and higher, I will say, listen, this is not okay, my friend. You must wake up. You must wake up. You cannot live this life anymore, whatever it's causing. If it's the ecosystem, if it's whatever things that's going on in your life, you'll wake up to see what it is, but you've got to turn it around and you've got to change your whole lifestyle immediately. Okay. So then we come to the next one, and that's addictions. And addictions would be any type of addiction. So let's just go through addictive behavior. Addictive behavior is just increasing, and the social media is absolutely helping you to become addicted. You know, so it's this. I must check. Ting, ting, my Facebook page. Ting, ting. Just check what people wrote. Ting, ting. It's all rubbish, man. Most of these things are just nothing. But you just get, it's a total dopamine overstimulation that creates this overstimulation of dopamine release. So from social media to gambling, this all this stuff of Bitcoin and investment on the internet. No, it's not gambling. I don't care what it is. It's an addiction. And stop that addiction. Anything that is going to make you to say, I must, is causing dopamine secretion. You've got to get out of it. Get back into nature. Ride a horse. Do something. Stop sitting and getting into these addictive patterns. Just as much, it would be something like sexual addiction, like pornography is a sexual addiction. Remember that thing, all of that lies in the primitive brain, and it holds you ransom. It holds you from doing the things that's going to get you out of the primitive brain. You've got to get out of that primitive brain, not into it, not let the primitive brain hold you ransom and control your life. You've got to get out of it. So it just enhances and exacerbates the compulsion, impulse, compulsion. It's got to do with self-preservation. It makes you to be more egocentric, because the self or the primitive brain is about the self, and it's me. Give me another thing. I need something that satisfies me. I don't get no satisfaction. And you just keep on. And it just gets worse and more and stronger. And you just absolutely just become a total waste. And let me tell you, don't let this be condemnation, because I'm not there to condemn you. I'm there to make you conscious. And that's the same with the people you work with, is to let people understand that you're becoming a toxified body, a toxified mind, and a toxified spirit. You become a total e-lock, hardwired person, external locus of control. There's something outside of me that must give me. And I'm telling you, in my case, me, Viva, I am suffering from that in terms of sugar. So anything that's got to do with binge eating or sugar, a need for sugar. I mean, sugar is alcohol. If you go and start going onto a course that teaches you to make a distilling factory, then they're going to first use a big bag of sugar, and then they're going to teach you how to make alcohol. I saw that on the farm in Magaliesburg, how they start with the whole sugar bags, and then they create alcohol, and then they create methanol and ethanol. So sugar is a nasty addiction, and we've got to get out of sugar addictions. So that thing in itself is a nasty thing. So don't see addictions as one is worse than the other, whether a person is an alcoholic or smoker, or a smoker or even a drug user or whatever. It's not one is the better than the other. It is really about the fact that it makes you to lose control. You give your soul away. So let's look at this. The addiction, this is what the people would say who's in those addictions. It's just a bad habit, that's all. Or I can't. You start hearing, I can't. So their sense of self goes down. Let me just be, man. Let me just leave me alone. You don't understand. I do not have a problem. I know when to stop. I need this. It's not much. It's not too much. It helps me through my stressful times. So it's all about that primitive brain, feeding into that primitive brain, which is really where you haven't lived yet. It's the level where a dog or the animal is. They are in fight and flight. It's that level, primitive level of living. You have not yet lived when you are caught up in your primitive brain. When you can overcome that, you have no idea what's going to happen when you get into the Z and the Zo and the higher brain, and what actually happens with a human being, and getting into that higher optimization of a human being. And that's what we've got to find. We've got to find a way to get humans to start getting a picture of what really is it to be human, to be free and not to be addicted to stuff. So this is a tertiary hardwire that gets the better of you, that obviously affects your biology. So it will affect your lungs, it will affect your liver, it will affect your diet. You'll get diabetes when you're fat and overweight. So by the way, my daughter, she managed to overcome all her fit rolletjies and her overweight, and she got herself a personal gym instructor, and she started going onto a journey of understanding how to actually eat properly. To me, mommy, man, I just suffer. My self-esteem is just still suffering because we're not supposed to be overweight. We're not supposed to not be in that right body fat index situation. And she got it so right. And I visited her so like 4 days ago before I came here, and she says, "Oh, mommy, you are so obese, you know." You are so obese. She says, I'm serious. Come, let me show you your body mass index. And I realized, it's so good that people can be there to hold you accountable and to say to you, listen, this is not good for you. You are going to develop diabetes or other types of problems. It's not what we're supposed to be. Get out of that tertiary hardwire. Okay, so those are the ones. So the addiction is obviously, and all of them, tertiary. When it comes to tertiary, we just go back and we can see, usually, very likely, a person has inherited some addictive pattern in the primary level, and then the unconducive parenting that made you feel you're not safe. I'm not safe. It goes back to I'm not safe. I'm not safe. And when you're not safe, you eventually say, I must. And then you slip down the slippery slope of the pattern to darkness in your life, which is so ridiculously unnecessary. And it's just because nobody is telling us that. And then obviously abuse. And I'm telling you now, the time has come where we've got to take action when humans are abusing each other, whether it is just verbal or emotional or physical. When we find those abusers, just look what they're doing in other humans' lives unintentionally. They don't know they're doing that. It's because they have been damaged probably and they have been victims. But we've got to put a stop to this. We've got to get people to become conscious to show how it actually messes up your life forever. So that brings us to the end of my session on the hardwires. Addiction regresses mental matters, limiting beliefs, old-mindedness, pocket out of pocket. So that is the beggar there. So because you're going to lose your money, you're going to have to earn big money from somewhere to maintain your addiction. And then it just causes that you actually become a victim yourself more and more. The victim hardwire in addicted nature just grows more and more. And that brings you into that whole thing of what care about life. I don't care about other people. I just care about me, myself, and my addiction. Okay. So yes, and there we've got some more examples of the denial, how the denial behavior grows. So there's a lot of that, and showing actually self-hate, guilt, remorse, dependency, dysfunctional behavior, going into bad ecosystem. You basically just fall back into all those hardwired patterns. Okay, so people displaying the ADV hardwire in the workplace, they are e-locked, obviously, because they e-locked to their addiction, and they regress to a dependency mindset. So the dependency mindset is totally e-locked, and then it goes back into the victim. They feed the addiction further by becoming addicted to anything other things, looking for other things. If the one thing doesn't work, then they look for the other thing. And even like we say, a gossip addiction, because that's the victim addiction, gossip addiction. Or if you've got the narcissist, me, myself, and I, then you love to hurt people. So that becomes just also another addiction. So it really, in a workplace, it creates irritability, impatience, negativity, abusive language. It really affects a workplace. So if we can manage our workspaces where people are taking ownership over their addictions, then it actually becomes a process of change, and it helps that human. It's only to help humans. It's to change humans, to get humans to get to their full potential. So there's just one scenario example, but we've come now to the homework, and the homework is that you have to send me your examples of whoever that you see is suffering from an addiction, whatever the addiction might be, and that you just describe it without specifically giving names, and as well as the old-minded hardwire. All right, and that brings us to the end. So by the end, we've come to the end of just looking at the hardwire. So I'm hoping by now you are putting in all the effort to get yourself, if you haven't done your hardwire interview or your hardwire counseling session, that you would do that as soon as possible. And then the second thing, that you would finish your homework, which is to look at examples that you'll see everywhere around you on old-minded and on addictive patterns. That is the tertiary hardwires. All right, do we have any questions? Good. So that brings us to the end of the session. It's a shorter session, so go sit while you've got the time and go write those scenarios and post it to me. Vivienne, VIVIENNE, the French version, at afriski.net. And I'll see you then next week on Tuesday. Have a lovely time. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye. Bye, Verb.
Bye, Verbs. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
Viva.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.